So, hello, welcome back to another episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. Today, we're going to go through some Reddit things. We're not going to go ahead with the book summary that I currently am going through. No, it's going to be about some rather amazing questions on Reddit. So to also let you see, here they are. 150 days without social media, 7 things I noticed. First of all, I do want to point out that the whole thing about, social media is bad is really pissing me off. Why? Because, no, it essentially is not bad, Of course, it might be, and I think, it depends on who we are talking about. I would say when it is about kids, since they do have to deal with, at least at my point of view, a bit more stress and a bit more difficulties than people without a phone, people without the internet, people without social media. And I would also say WhatsApp, even though I do not technically think that it is social media, that they are just having to deal with more difficulties than people without and or kids without from previous generations. Still, when one gets mad about social media or any other negative feeling, might not necessarily be madness, I guess, or just being mad and or angry or whatnot. I think it is more or less due to oneself, It is just another factor and another thing that a lot of people demonize, like, okay, this is making me feel worse, and this is making me feel this and that, and these and those, and like, in the end, no, it is yourself, as you can also get pissed off by somebody else, somebody that is, crossing you in a just really fucked up way with his car, or with her car, or whatever. This person can also piss you off. But in the end, it is you, because we can always decide how we react to things and how we feel about things. It is a fucking decision. Yeah, right. It is a fucking decision. Unless it comes to some biological mechanisms. But still, I really give a ton of props to the mind and the mind's ability to deal with things consciously. Anyway, I'm still willing to go through some things. What I have noticed. Numero uno. 99% of my friends in Instagram or Facebook or on Instagram or Facebook don't care about me. They don't even notice. I don't use my social media account for half a year. I left contacts, messenger and phone to everyone, but only 2 people wished me happy birthday. One guy called me 3 days later and said if I want to have a walk. Also, 3 people who don't even remember about me for years asked me for a favor. I said no. Which I do not really know if, this is the right thing to do, kind of. I don't really believe in quote unquote revenge. And being like, okay, this person did this to me, so I'm also gonna just do this to this person, Like, when somebody calls you 3 days later because, this person forgot, which I think is just something completely normal, like, yeah, okay, let's have a walk. It is just completely fine, I don't know. Like, I've never gone that, and I think I will never. I realize and I notice and I understand that it might feel good, to just be somewhat of an important person and, saying no for whatever reason. But I think in the end, it's quite unnecessary, and one could make one's own life a bit better by just not trying to take revenge on everyone and everything. Anyway. Second, I realized I don't want to see any posts on social media. Seriously, I don't care. You had a journey to Iceland? I do not think that it is written in that way. Anyway, got a car, made a painting, eat healthy. It is not interesting for me. It is your life. It is not a part of my life. I'm not a part of your life. Damn, I don't really care about what my real friends post on social media. Instead, I'll welcome them to my apartment. We'll have some tea, share stories, and they'll show me some pictures. Maybe we'll have a trip to the nature, real communication, not this phone sex friendship. Phone sex friendship. Well, the third, attention span. Damn, it was a real problem for me. Now I can concentrate for more than 20 seconds. Once again, I enjoy reading, just like when I was 10, reading Treasure Island or Harry Potter after school. The fourth, I became more confident and happier. I read many articles about links that depression and low self-esteem has with social media. I think it is true. Not so many likes feels bad. Now approval of 350 people has no influence on me. It is only me now to compare. And this is kind of the exact same thing that I meant before. Like, this is just something that you do to yourself. It is something that you choose to care about. And period. It is not social media that is bad. It is that we can't just deal with it. It might be a power that we can't handle. And this is quite it. It's not about like it just, being bad, and it should be demonized or whatnot. No, it is due to us. It is due to our incapability of dealing with these powers, situations, scenarios, whatever it might be. At least at my point of view. And of course, multiple different points of views here. Very controversial, very prominent and dominant, I think, this discussion. Still, when it is a trigger to one, when you continuously see that, okay, when I'm on social media, when I'm browsing through it, when I'm just, searching for shit and whatnot, it makes me feel bad and it makes me feel mad. Well, it just makes sense to not use it if you really feel bad about it, and if you just can't handle it, which is something one has to admit and something that one needs to see or whatnot. Like, we can choose, we have the ability to respond. We have response ability. Anyway, before quitting social media, there was always something to feel sad about. Oh, this guy is 5 years younger and he's more successful. The person with whom I went to school is traveling around Europe, having very interesting journeys. This guy has perfect relationships. Everyone is better than me, live more happy life. Why I was using social media for years, if it felt so bad, I don't know. And the sixth one is FOMO. Now, it's just 4 letters, not an anxiety that I miss something sitting at home. And right now, a realization that hits like a nail in my head, it wasn't even fun. I was wasting my time for years on things that doesn't give me fun or joy, something a little bit exciting but not fulfilling, like a spoon of sugar instead of a healthy dinner when I was hungry. Silva Siberia posted this, by the way. I know my opinion about the whole thing. As I said, might just be a power that we cannot handle and should learn to handle, which might be, I think, pretty beneficial also concerning different other situations in life and aspects of life. Are books by people like Ryan Holiday worth it, or should I just stick with the main 3 Stoic philosophers' books? I would actually really like to hear people's opinions about that, because I also thought about that. At my point of view, I think they are worth it, since it is kind of this modern Stoic thoughts, which may actually give you some stuff to think about in terms of, old philosophy adapted to nowadays life. Of course, you can read about horseback riding and why it might be good and or not, but might not actually be that great depending on your situation. Of course, maybe you might be horseback riding. Bad example, but still, I think you know what I mean. Like, a bit of an adaptation to nowadays life, and also different thoughts from people that seemingly are pretty smart, seemingly are pretty successful, and I think just due to that it might be beneficial and worthwhile reading their books. just to see what they're talking about. And then you can always decide like, okay, no, this is not necessarily something that I, want to deal with, want to know more about, want to read. There are modern Stoic authors that are well worth reading. Check out Massimo Pigliucci, who is actually a pretty great author, as far as I know and or remember, the author of the website and probably also some books. How to Be a Stoic, as far as I remember. Might be wrong there, but anyway. Anderson Silva, Ward Farnsworth, and Donald Robertson. I was introduced to the philosophy by Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way, but after I moved on to the classics and some of the authors mentioned above, I began to feel that Holiday's approach is a little too superficial and commercial. He does bring a lot of people to the fold, though. By the way, I highly recommend the Gregory Hayes translation of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. And yes, there are so many different translations of books, and they all are a bit different, since words can be interpreted differently, can be how should I say, said differently. Things are just different. It always depends on who you are, what you think about, and so on and so forth. I just finished How to Think Like a Roman Emperor by Donald Robertson. I've been reading and practicing Stoicism for a few years now, but still consider myself an absolute beginner. Which I, by the way, think, in terms of certain things that I've been doing actually for quite a while, I am a complete beginner. Of course, it is totally fine to admit that I have certain knowledge in certain fields, and this is totally fine, and this is totally great to admit and notice and know. Like in terms of nutrition, for example, I'm actually pretty well off. I know quite a lot of things, but still, I'm actually not advanced. I wouldn't say so. I might be an intermediate. Of course, there's a bit more scientific things that I just don't know anything about, but I'm not a beginner. But in terms of, I would actually say in terms of design, even though I've been designing for quite a long time, I am not the greatest. I'm just somewhat of a beginner. Of course, some other people might be worse than me and whatnot, but also in terms of art in general, like drawing and whatnot, I've been doing it for fucking years. Just also, quite a lot, especially in school. But I wouldn't say that I am kind of just good, or, let's just use his terminology. I would say that I'm not an intermediate. I'm rather a beginner, maybe something in between, but still, I think it is fine. And I think it is also good to admit that, that you may not be the greatest at something, which I often feel like, why are people acting like they are the absolute fucking greatest at something? It may actually be that they are pretty talented, and that they actually know what they're talking about. Yeah, that is fine, but I don't know, like I might just also be very strict with myself and the way I present myself and also view myself, but actually also not just be beneficial of any kind, because I might actually be way better at certain things that I think and talk about myself as just not being good at. Anyway, I found Seneca's letters when I was in a bit of an existential crisis and found them absolutely life-changing. I then came across Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Musonius Rufus. For the most part, I've really only stuck with the Asians, but today got the audiobook of the book How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. At the start, I was hesitant. I am not sure why. Maybe because I always felt like modern Stoics just churn out the same thing and nothing is really new. Well, I would actually argue that it essentially is the same thing, and I think it is also meant to be the same thing, since it is the same thing. Like Stoicism and certain principles, they are just the basis of Stoicism, and so therefore they should be the same. But obviously, when it is completely the same, like also the scenery, the whole overall world, this book is about. If this is just back in ancient times, like why? It's not modern then. unless it is some sort of a new finding of papers, books, scriptures from, I don't know, Marcus Aurelius, nobody has found yet, and it is some sort of an historical yet philosophical piece of work. Yeah. By the way, just because I'm actually pretty much struggling with it the whole fucking entire episode, there is so many different ways in which whatever the fuck I'm saying can somehow be the complete opposite. And it kind of is bothering me, to be honest, because I also want to communicate these ways. You know, when I say, well, water is absolutely fucking good, well, there's just a tremendous amount of ways in which water is not good. You know, let's think about the waterfalls, you know, by which you can die, you know. Also, drinking too much water, you can die by doing so. Just drinking too much water while not having enough salt. It's also not really, really good, you know, it can actually fuck you off quite a bunch. And so on and so forth. Like, you know, life is sometimes very difficult, you know, I totally know that I'm just making it way more difficult than it needs to be for myself. Oscar Wilde. This is going to be the last thing for today. I think it is very healthy to spend time alone. You need to know how to be alone and not be defined by another person. And I would say this as well. And with this being said, I'm going to see you the next time. Bye-bye.